welcome to my very first knitting podcast episode. My name is Marianne and I'm the knitter behind May Knits, and in today's episode I'm going to share with you some of my recently finished knits, and then I'll show you what I'm currently working on. So let's start with my first finished object, which are these felted slippers. It's the zero striped slippers, which is my own pattern. They're knitted in drop snow in pink and red and a light grey for the sole. At the very end you have the I-cord, which you pick up stitches and then you just cast off while doing the I-cord. I think because they're knit on a big needle, 10mm, they're quite a fast knit and it's quite fun to see them go from this. You end up with kind of a long scarf looking thing, but then you do like a simple stitch just to sew it together into an actual slipper at the very end, which I do have a tutorial for if you find that difficult, if you haven't done that before. I've made a lot of these slippers over the years. I love felting, and I think drop snow is probably my favorite for slippers because it's quite thick, so they hold up much longer. It's also great for using up your scraps, which is what I've done with these slippers, made with all leftover yarn. Kind of like pastel looking colors, really cute, and then a darker color for the sole, which I think will help make them not look as dirty like straight away. I've also made them not with symmetrical stripes, just kind of using the yarn I had of one color until I ran out and then switched to the other whenever that was, not really thinking about having even stripes or anything like that, and I think that still turns out really cute. So it's a great project to just use up your leftovers, which is what I've done a lot lately, and ended up using up most of my drops of snow making these kinds of slippers. I got so many lovely comments on my slippers when I posted them, and people who wanted to make them themselves. So I did write a pattern instead of just having my scrambled notes, which I'm also glad I did, because now the next time I want to knit them I don't have to interpret my own really rough notes. And I'm also just so grateful to everyone who's bought the pattern and who encouraged me to make the pattern. And it's just been really fun to see the different colors people are making them in, and I just think it's really cool that my pattern now exists in so many different countries all over the world. After I posted the pattern, I think I've gotten quite a few messages about felting and people who wanted to maybe felt for the first time or haven't felted much before, and I think it's just been really nice to talk to more knitters out there, because it's just such a lovely community I'm just so grateful to be a part of. My next finished object is the Moby sweater baby by Petite Knit. I don't have it here because I've already given it away, but I'll put some pictures and videos up to show you what it looks like. I made it in Double Sunday by Scandinavian, which is also the yarn the pattern calls for. I ended up with a little bit over one skein left over, knitted it in the biggest size 9 to 12 months. It was my first time knitting using the Double Sunday by Scandinavian, and I really love this yarn. I really want to make something more with this. If anyone has any suggestions for some good patterns that goes with the Double Sunday, please let me know. Preferably an adult size, as I want to make something for myself in this yarn. They also have some really nice colors. I found it really difficult to choose a color, but I just went with the classic white. It's the 1001, which is not the same that she used for hers. I think she used a more of a yellowish white, which I'm not sure if I should have gone with a bit of a yellowish white. If this is too white, it might get dirty, but oh well, too late. The Moby sweater baby was my first time knitting a texture and cable knit pattern, and I think it went quite well. On the Petite Knit website, she's made it a 5 out of 5 star pattern, which is the most difficult rating she's got on it. But I think it's not that difficult. It looks a lot more complicated than it actually is. I think you just need to read the pattern and look at the chart, read it a couple of times, and then once you start knitting, you'll see it's a lot of just repetition. It's not that difficult once you actually have read it and you just do it. That's how I went about it anyways. And I also used the videos she's got linked. Those are really helpful, and just made the whole process really manageable. And yeah, saying that, it did take me quite a bit of time just to get started, and I did make a little mistake at the very beginning, which I didn't go back and fix because I knew I was going to pick up stitches for the shoulder. It was right at the beginning when you start with the back panel, and I knew I was going to pick up stitches, so I thought it probably wouldn't be noticeable, and thankfully it wasn't. At that point I had knitted maybe 24 rows, which isn't a lot, but it was so slow at the beginning I didn't want to go back, and luckily it turned out well for me. A few times during the pattern I also didn't really pay enough attention, and I ended up knitting like the previous row or doing something like 4 stitches too early or too late, and I thought it would be quite difficult to fix mistakes in this pattern, but it wasn't really that bad. I think if you've been wanting to knit the Moby sweater in any size, but you're intimidated by the 5 out of 5 difficulty rating, it isn't as difficult as you think, and you should just do it. Next up, I want to share with you sort of a Pinterest inspired top, knitted in a really beautiful yellow color with some intarsia flowers. It's this cap sleeve top. Don't know if you can see it properly in frame. I'll put up some pictures and videos that are a bit better, but it's a free-handed knit in drops air on 3.5mm needles for the upper body, and then I shifted to 5mm for the lower body part of it to make it a bit more airy and loose and breathable down there, but I done the 3.5mm at the top because I obviously didn't want that to be transparent or anything, as it's quite a fitted top with not a lot of wiggle room, just about 2-3 centimeters of positive ease. It was my first time knitting intarsia. I've seen a lot of intarsia on Pinterest and a lot of like cute little cap sleeves or tank tops. I wasn't sure if I was going to be a tank top or a cap sleeve when I started. I wanted to do a cap sleeve, but I'd never done like that whole cap sleeve construction before, and when I first done the sleeves they ended up being kind of balloon sleeves, so I had to redo them, and then I ended up with this cute little cap sleeve, which is just what I wanted. It's constructed from the top down. First knitted the back and then picked up stitches right on the shoulder here, and then knitted the front left piece and the front right piece joined together, and then knitted back and forth here. Obviously because of the intarsia I have to knit back and forth. I think you can do some tricks to do knit in the round, but being my first time I didn't really want to do that. I found it quite overwhelming on YouTube looking up the tutorials for intarsia, when in reality I think most of the tutorials on YouTube kind of overcomplicated things, and when I actually sat down to do it, it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. I've been wanting to do intarsia for years, but I've just been put off by it every time I look up a tutorial because it just seems so complicated. But in reality, it really wasn't that complicated. You just need a lot of little yarn balls. Since I knitted it back and forth, I just seamed the back and front piece together. You can't even really see it, which is obviously what I wanted, so that's good. And then for the rest of the body, after I changed to the 6.5mm needles, I done a few decreases to have it go slightly inwards towards the waistline, and then some increases to make it go out around the hips. I didn't want like a ribbon cast off, so I just done like a folded edge. You can see it's the right side, and then it's just sewn in here basically. I have a little tutorial on that on my TikTok if you want to see how that's done. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think the yellow looked really good with the pink and the red and the orange. They complement the yellow really well, I think. Especially because this is more of like a butter yellow, and then these colors are more bright. The flowers are quite wonky, but that was on purpose. I wanted like some unique, imperfectly perfect flowers that where none of them are the same, and I think that's exactly what I got. If I was gonna do one change, it would maybe be to have this line of flowers like 1 or 2 rows a bit lower, and then same with these two to give a bit more space here, like on this area here between the 2 lines. But I do like how it sits on, so not major, but maybe I'd do that, but I'm not sure. I do like it though this way too. Oh, and to actually make the flowers, I just kind of drew them on a website called Stitch Fiddle. It's a really simple way to make a child. You can also choose the yarn, so I actually just chose the Drops Air that I made this in, and then I can actually see the actual colors. But there's also lots of flower charts and all kinds of different charts on Pinterest you can find if you want to do some intarsia. That was all my finished objects that I wanted to share with you today. Next up we have my first whip, which is this little kid's cardigan. It is knitted on 4mm needles using merino wool from Drops called Merino Extra Fine. It's a superwash merino wool. It's really soft. I like how it feels. I don't know if it piles a lot as I've never used it before. I've done some little flowers on it, and then I've done some little garter stitch details. I've been seeing a lot on Pinterest, these little cardigans with garter stitch details on the body and the sleeves, so that's what I went for when I freehanded this. And then I've been really into flowers lately, so I just decided to combine the two. I'm done with the knitting part of it. I just done the buttonholes and that, but I still need to get buttons and sew them on, and obviously weave in all the ends. I'm not really sure what buttons I want to do, if I should do some pink ones or some white buttons, or maybe some different colors or different shapes, like you get those little heart buttons or little flower buttons. I think you can really like change the whole look of the cardigan using different buttons. Like you can give it more of a classical look if you go for wooden buttons, and then a more playful look with different colors. So I just need to decide on that. If you have a suggestion, please let me know in the comments. I also think, just looking at it now, I'm thinking it would be really cute for an adult size cardigan. Like, then I would definitely go for like a light wooden button, but I also don't really like knitting back and forth because there's so much purling, so I don't think I really have the patience to knit this in an adult size, but we'll see. My next whip is this Scandinavian style fluffy oversized sweater that I'm freehanding in Fairy Tale by House of Yarn on 12mm needles. It's in different green colors, but the yarn is held double. It's kind of big to fit in the frame, so I'll put some pictures and video up of that. I've gotten quite far. I've just got the last sleeve left, maybe 10-15 centimeters left of it, and then cast off and weave in all the ends. I really wanted like a big chunky but airy, like with big holes, like you can see. A sweater to just throw over in the summer evenings. I think it'd be really cute to have just over a dress, like when it gets colder in the evenings or if it's a windy day. And then I thought it would be great to have the green kind of gradually shift. Since the yarn is held doubled, I would just keep one of the greens and then get a new green for the next row. I'll show you the yarn. This is all the colors I've used. First the first stripe is with this green, dark green color, just held double with two of this dark green. Then I have the next stripe is knitted these two, then I have these two, and then these two, and then these two. So it gives this like gradual change, which is still stripes, but it's not as harsh, and it makes it kind of look like quite natural, I think. Originally I wanted to knit it in all these different pinks, which I'd found both in the fairy tale and the fairy tale upcycle, but then when I finally got around to buying the yarn, the upcycle had been discontinued, which I think it was always a limited edition, but I didn't realize until it was too late. I still think it'd be really cute in some pink colors, or maybe even like some pink and orange, yellow, red, like sunset kind of vibe. But then I seen all these green colors, and yeah, I think it's really nice. Yeah, and I also really like the yarn. It's 100% finest alpaca. I've made one sweater in it before, quite recently, and I've not used it yet because I still haven't weaved in the ends. So I don't know if it piles a lot, but I know it doesn't leave a whole seat fluffy like mohair does. So I think it's a great alternative if you don't like that, or if you feel like mohair is scratchy but you want to knit one of these like big fluffy, like chunky oversized sweaters for summer. Then I think this is a great alternative. You can also go with like Drops Melody. I think that would also be a good option. But if you do like mohair, there's obviously a lot of really great options for mohair. I do have a sweater knitted in mohair, which on 15mm needles, which I use a lot on the summer. It's the Sommerfried by Netteria. I don't think it's scratchy at all, but I just know some people don't like mohair. So I think this is a great alternative if you're one of those people. I made it bottom up, just a really simple structure. I just calculated, I thought how big do I want it, and then I just checked my gauge and calculated how many stitches I need to cast on. It's just a simple knitted up in the round, and then right here divided into front and back. Knitted the back piece first and then the front piece, and then just attached the shoulders together, just using a simple stitch, and then picked up stitches for the sleeves and knitted the sleeves. And then for the first sleeve that I've finished, I'll just knit 2 and 2 together all the way around to get this like balloon sleeve. And that's really it. I'm hoping to finish it soon. I did knit most of this in like 2 days, I think it was. Pretty much all of this in 2 days, so you can knit this sweater in 3 days if you want. It's really a fast knit, but then the last few days I've not really been knitting on this because it's been really warm, like 28 degrees Celsius, and I don't want to have this on my lap when it's that warm. So I did another cast on, which is where is it? Here it is. The off shoulder top by Maymate Knits, aka me. This one is for my sister. It is knitted in Drops Air light pink. I think it's just the most stunning color for summer. Looking at it now, I really want to make one for myself in this color, maybe next summer. You start with an Italian cast on in 2x2 rib, which I've always hated, but this time I actually found it to be kind of a breeze, quite easy and almost fun, if I can say that, about Italian cast on. I think because I kind of changed my method, I used to use like one YouTube tutorial, but look at multiple, and you kind of a lot of the time end up with like twisted knit stitches when you do the switching around, because the way it's done, you do the normal Italian cast on as if you were going to have a 1x1 rib, and then you switch the stitches around, but then you end up with twisted knit stitches, and that just looks wonky, like, and quite tight. But I just didn't turn the stitches that way and just had them be knit stitches and knit them as knit stitches, and that just made the whole process a lot easier, and it just looks a lot cleaner. Like, try to show you. I think it looks better than the way I see it's done a lot on YouTube, but I don't know if that's just my opinion. It's obviously not a lot to show you as I've just casted this one on. There's a lot of stitches right now as it's gonna go. I have all the stitches for the shoulders and the body, so it feels a bit slow at the beginning being on 4mm needles, which I think I forgot to mention. Then after setting aside the stitches for the sleeves and then just having the body stitches, it just feels like such a breeze. And then you obviously have some increases and some decreases at one point, which is a fun change up from the mindless 2x2 rib, which I find it mindless now. At the beginning I would have to focus, but I think I've knitted so much rib now that I can knit 2x2 rib without having to look. Obviously not when I'm doing the decreases and increases, but this will be my mindless knit right now, and then we'll see if I'll cast on a bit of a more complicated, challenging project soon too. That was all I had for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you have any thoughts or any questions, please let me know in the comments, and if not, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!